Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. So this is going to be kind of a rant video about God and our relationship with God. Now, whether you call God Kali, or whether you call God Yahweh, or whether you call God just God, whether you think of God as Divine Mother or Divine Father, Heavenly Father, whatever. Have you ever noticed that some people just seem born for this world? And I don't necessarily mean that they're born to remain in this world forever or be here life after life after life. I mean that their nature is perfectly aligned with success in this world. Now, the kinds of people that I'm talking about are perfectly adapted to this world. Rajasic, restless, seeking material benefit, but seeking also just fulfillment through material, but through friendship, through family. Don't necessarily have higher spiritual goals, but they have the drive and the hardworking mentality to gain all these things, to gain friends, to gain family, to gain wealth, to gain prosperity in this world. Some people have reached a stage where they're just perfectly aligned, right in the center of spiritual development, that they just slot into this world as if they're the perfect shape and they're fitting into a hole. That kind of person is kind of, I wouldn't say rare, I would say just not as common as everyone else, who is a little bit below that or a little bit above that, or orientation is completely foreign to this world and what this world is. So this world isn't bad. This isn't a bad place. Nothing is necessarily bad or evil, but how we are orientated towards God determines what we get from God. We determine the results of everything that we do. Every act can be thought of as an act of worship. Now, whether you're trying to get something like money, or whether you're trying to attain a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or whether you're trying to just live your life and pay your bills, or whether you're trying to have social interactions during the day. Every act, even the act of relieving ourselves, is an act of worship because it is in relation to God, because God is everything and everything is God. And it is only illusion that makes us think that God is elsewhere and not here, and that everything is not a part of God. So every act is an act of worship in one way or another, determining our relationship with God based on the motivations of that action and how the action was carried out, whatever the action is. Now, if you're going to, how do we address evil in this way? So if we're going to do evil things, bad things, hurt other people, steal from other people, abuse other people for our own satisfaction in some way, shape, or form, that is an act of worship too. And since everything is God, you're worshiping that part of God from where those motivations are drawn, from where those base desires are drawn. That is also a part of God. Materialism, greed, lust, also a part of God. You're worshiping that part of God that is lust, that is greed, that is cruelty. So if you're worshiping that part of God, expect the fruits of those actions to be either, I wouldn't necessarily even call it wrath, though it can be understood as that, but it can manifest that part of God for you, that the intensity, that vibration, that particular one, that negative one of God, that is also a part of God for you in your life and your reality. If not immediately, then eventually. And the difference between that kind of relationship with God and higher relationships with God, worshiping God, helping other people. It's not necessarily that one's better than the other. I mean, realistically, I would classify it as better or good versus evil, just out of convenience, though. But it's not so much that that is better, but or even makes us better or makes us like people that are above other people. It doesn't quite, that doesn't quite make sense in the ultimate understanding of it. What we have to fight for is on an individual level. We have to decide what we want from life, what we want from this world, if we want to go beyond this world or if we want to wallow in this world. Now, a path is higher by orientation if it leads to renunciation of this world, to non-attachment, to not being controlled by desire, not being controlled by one's lower motivations. That is considered higher because it leads us out of this world instead of remaining in this world. So if we accept that our path is one away from this world and of evolution and grander expansion, then we can view that path as higher and follow that path. But it's not necessarily better. It leads to higher realms rather than remaining here. At any rate, this has been a little bit of a rant. I have to get back to family and Christmas. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was an interesting rant. Like this video if you thought it was interesting at all. Feel free to also leave me a comment and feel free to share this wherever you like. At any rate, thank you very much for watching and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. I felt the need to expand somewhat on my words because this is Christmas and this is a time of, it's supposed to be a time of giving and joy, or holidays. There's plenty of holidays around Christmas. That's why we say happy holidays, not just because we're not all Christian, but because there are many holidays around Christmas. But at any rate, I felt the need to expand upon my words about how our actions, every action is a prayer, is an act of worship in our relationship with God. When we act kindly towards others, when we understand they have their own relationship to God and they're on their own journey and they don't have to be on our journey. They don't have to have the same struggles. They don't have to have the same belief system. They don't have to have the same understanding. They don't have to have the same relationship with God. When we understand that, we are creating a positive relationship with God just through that understanding. Just on our part, just on our relationship with God, we're improving that by how we view and treat other people. And our commitment to God is shown by, maybe, I wouldn't go as far as to say loving. You don't have to love everybody. It's really hard to love everybody. But to not hate and at the very least tolerate and try to be understanding towards everyone and their relationship towards God, even if they understand God a completely different way, even if they don't think of a singular God. In Hinduism, as a Shakta, I kind of had this understanding of polytheism as all being different faces of the same God, but I'll talk about different gods and goddesses. And that's my understanding. But if somebody doesn't believe in a singular source, somebody doesn't believe in a singular Godhead, and somebody doesn't have that same relationship, whether they do or don't, with God, in understanding that, I think that improves our relationship to God, principally through our relationship with the universe and other people in the universe, other life forms in the universe, not even just people. How we treat everything improves our relationship with God. And if we're contacting that part of God through all of this compassion, through becoming compassionate, through becoming understanding, we're contacting that piece of God. And contacting that piece of God, we manifest that love and compassion into our lives because we're contacting that piece of God. Every act of compassion, even in understanding somebody, even if you're not talking to somebody, even in how you understand other people, that has an effect on our personal relationship with God. And once again, we'll manifest that positive piece of God in our lives. Because, this is once again my bias. I think that everything is a part of God. Maybe something might be more of a skin cell or a fingernail, be far away from something like vital organs that could be God's, or the Godhead that is the brain and nervous system, to use a needlessly long analogy. But everything, even to the fingertips of God, it's still a part of God. There's nothing on the outside. It's all on the inside, on the edge, but still in contact with God. And God is not a separate entity. So, if you correct your relationship to God and your understanding of God, your understanding of other people, not even correcting your understanding of God, that doesn't necessarily have an effect. But your understanding of other people, other things in this world, and your relationship to them, that vastly improves your relationship with God. And it's hard to not let karma creep into our thinking, or the fruits of our actions creep into our thinking, because it'd be logical to say, well, if I do this, aren't I just doing it in order to get more compassion from God, or to manifest that in my life, or to get good karma? And the answer is yes, but not yes in the way that you might think. So, in understanding our relationship to God and changing it, tweaking it, and tweaking our relationship with other people, tweaking our relationship with everything around us, we might have an understanding that we might get something out of it. But if you can move your motivator away from getting something personally out of this whole exchange or whatever, or this cohabitation, you can move your motivation away from that and into just being peaceful for the sake of being peaceful, being compassionate for the sake of being compassionate, and away from the motivator of getting something out of it, that improves your relationship with God vastly. And it creates a better mental landscape to live in, and a better world to live in, if we all did our part in regards to this. So you can think of it as doing your part rather than getting something out of it. If you can move the motivation, well, even if the karma motivation is still there, if you can just move the motivation, then you can be rather than do to get. And karma is very much misunderstood. Karma means action. You can think of it as cause and effect, but karma just means action. So all the ideas around karma are usually cultural, specific to a person, specific to a group. But karma just means action. Almost like yoga just means spiritual path. Karma yoga just means spiritual path of action, usually denoting proper action. But there's all kinds of ideas around proper action. There's not just one way to view karma or one way to view karma yoga. And there's not one way to view what you get out of it. But all of this is meant to push towards a state of being rather than a state of want. Because if we're in a state of want, we are suffering in some way, shape, or form. If we're in a constant state of want, if we're in a state of want that's akin to a state of desire, we want, and we try to get, and it's never fast enough. It's never quite fast enough for us, and we never get exactly what we want. And when we do, we're usually dissatisfied anyway, because that state of want leads to dissatisfaction no matter what happens. If we can understand karma in a less culturally, and I feel like at this time, most people that think of karma think of it as something that it is not necessarily. It means action. There's a lot of ideas around action. An additional thought is cause and effect. We reap what we sow. That's the best example of karma in the Bible, but once again, that's a modern understanding of karma, where we're adding this cause and effect, or you do good so you get good. So I'm wrapped up in this modern understanding of karma as well. Now, if we were to not call it karma and just think of it as cause and effect, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. It's not easy to say. It's not easy to kind of give a comprehensive idea of in regards to these things, spirituality or action. But cause and effect would be, I think, a more proper term than karma. And when people step on our feet, when people do things that we don't like, or they assault us unprovoked. Now, I don't necessarily mean assault as in like hit you, and then if you hit back, that's understandable. But you can't think of it as you being the agent of karma. Karma doesn't work through somebody who says, I am the agent of karma. I'm going to show them, or I am the initiator of the karma that they deserve because, for instance, they hit me. Though I don't usually mean in the literal sense. Never claim yourself to be an agent of karma, especially when something was done to you and you're saying, I'm an agent of karma. No. If you think of karma in that way, the karma that you're thinking of is going to come around and bite you because you're claiming to be its agent. Eventually. Not immediately, but eventually. And karma, cause and effect, is not on anybody's timetable. That's why it's best to not respond. If you're being physically attacked, respond, just so you're not continuously hurt. But if somebody does something that's dickish, mean, that they didn't need to do, and you don't think that they had any reason to do that, and perhaps there's an extra motivator where it's like, oh, they think I'm bad because of A, B, and C, and they don't understand what I'm doing, they don't understand who I am. That gets the emotions churning. That gets those wants and desires churning and adds extra volatile nature to how karma will relate to you in the future. Even when somebody steps on your toes, figuratively speaking, it's best to try to be understanding or withhold action. Try to understand the situation. And if you realize somebody's ignorant and they're doing something that they had no reason to do to you, the best thing you can do is just to realize they're ignorant and get over it. Because if they're ignorant, if they're in the wrong, then as long as you're not continuously in a situation where you have to be in contact with them, why should you care if it comes back at them? And if it comes back at them from you, why would you care about your response? Because are you trying to convince them, or are you insecure in yourself? So it's fear. Anger is the mask or the tool of fear and the tool of insecurity. If you are secure in yourself and you realize somebody is ignorant, that's the best reason to just get over it and move on with your life, whatever it is. This might not be the case in every situation, but the vast majority, just get over it and move on. That ability to get over things and just move on, think of how many times people had to just get over things that we did to them. Maybe we stepped out of line and we shouldn't have done something to somebody, and we realized it later on. Karma could just be cause and effect could just be getting back at us for all those times we did that. What somebody does right now could be the result of what we did to somebody else in the past. Especially if it's a completely different person, different situation. And there's a whole lot of people who say, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Who were really not great people in the past. And then they believe in karma, and then they wonder why it's happening to them now. We cannot see all the lines between things in this world. We cannot see all the pieces at play. It's best to be understanding and withhold negative action rather than committing it. And we'll find that we become unassailable, ironically, by seemingly backing down and really getting over it, we become unassailable, untouchable. There's a reason why Stoic philosophers like Seneca and Epictetus and Buddhist monks talked a whole lot about how they weren't afraid of death. If they weren't afraid of death, then what can somebody do to them? Then they refuse to be afraid of pain, because that's an imagination because our imaginings of pain is what makes up most of pain and its effect on us. And if we're not afraid of that, and somebody causing us pain can't really hurt us. So these Stoic philosophers, Buddhist monks, these are my two examples, but there's plenty of other kinds of people. They become unassailable, and people can't affect them. And you get to that point by practice and by truly doing the work within yourself to be able to get over things. If you can really get over things and you are not afraid of pain and you're not afraid of what people think about you, you have reached a level of strength that few can truly comprehend. Of course, even if we want to react with negative magic, cursing somebody or physically hurting somebody, you're just becoming a tool of your animal instinct that cause and effect is using. Cause and effect is using your animal nature, yes. But it does not help you escape from this cycle or from it happening again and again and again, and somebody stepping on your toes again and again and again. And if your animal nature can be used by other people, and thus by cause and effect, then you will be trapped here in a continuous cycle of grievances, of hurt and response. That is not how one becomes unassailable. That is not how one becomes truly strong. That is not how one becomes someone who is honestly worth looking up to and worth being viewed as being wise. You just become another reactionary force. And there's so many situations in life in which we want to react. Endless. And we think we're the agents of karma, or the people had it coming. Then we're just a tool. We're not truly free. A tool of cause and effect, a tool of samsara, a tool of this cycle, a tool of whatever phase of consciousness the world happens to be at. But nowhere in that is there spiritual progress towards personal evolution, spiritually, magically, as a person, philosophically, mentally, or in our heart, where the deepest and truest seed of intelligence lies. The ancient yogis and seers understood that the heart is the center of the intellect. Counterintuitive to our understanding of the brain and nervous system, but there's a subtler reason for that. And that's because the gateway to intelligence is in the heart chakra. That's where it enters. That's where intelligence enters. That's where life force enters us. And the intelligence of the life force is where we draw original intelligence from, especially if we're human beings, because that gateway is a whole nother level. If we are bipedal, for some reason, bipedal beings especially, ones that have a similar advanced nervous system become bipedal, but all bipedal beings, but especially humans on this planet anyway, their intelligence comes from the place where their life force is drawn, and that's from the lotus in the heart, the special gateway. The transdimensional gateway is the pineal gland. But that's more of a gateway to our divine nature, but that's a whole nother topic. At any rate, I felt the need to go into more detail about how every action we commit is an act of worship in one kind or another, and in a positive, more positive way. Because I don't like to go on and on about greed and lust constantly. But yeah, I hope this was interesting. I hope this was useful. If you like this video at all, hit that thumbs up down there. It really helps out the channel. Or give this video a heart if you're seeing this on TikTok. And feel free to leave a comment. I love to hear from you guys, and it helps out the channel. And feel free to share this wherever you like. At any rate, this has been a video about how every action is an act of worship. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And I hope all of you have a wonderful day.